The breaking point. The Galactic Federation had a saying about humans: bend them, but never break them. For 70 years, they had followed half that advice. The bending part was easy: overwhelming force, superior technology, and the annexation of Earth's solar system had brought humanity to its knees. The breaking part, that was their fatal miscalculation. Commander Maya Chen stared out the viewport of the Resistance vessel Defiant Shadow, her dark eyes reflecting the distant stars. At 43, she had spent more than half her life fighting a war most humans considered already lost. The scars that traced her face weren't just badges of survival. They were reminders of what the Federation had taken from her: family, home, hope. Status report, she called, her voice carrying the weight of command that had kept her crew alive when so many others had perished. Lieutenant Ramos approached, his prosthetic leg making the subtle whirring sound against the metal deck. All systems nominal, Commander. We're running silent as ordered. Federation patrols have passed our sector. Maya nodded, her fingers absently tracing the edge of the holographic display, showing their position at the outer reaches of what had once been human territory. Now it was just another Federation administrative region. Sector 9, they called it, not even bothering to preserve the name Earth. And the cargo? She asked, lowering her voice. Ramos's expression darkened. Secure. Dr. Ellison says the final calibrations are complete. Good. Tell her I'll be down shortly. When Ramos had gone, Maya allowed herself a moment of doubt. Project Phoenix wasn't just dangerous, it was desperate. The kind of solution that came only when a species had been pushed beyond endurance. A response to what had happened 3 months ago in the colony worlds of Proxima Centauri. The cleansing, they called it now. 3 million human lives erased in a single day because a small group of colonists had refused new resource quotas. The Federation's response had been swift and absolute, an object lesson in the cost of defiance. They had made Earth's remaining populations watch as the colony worlds burned, their atmosphere ignited into storms of fire that raged until nothing remained but ash and silence. Maya had been there, on an undercover mission to extract resistance fighters. She had watched helplessly from a cloaked shuttle as cities turned to cinders, as families evaporated in columns of flame. And something inside her, inside all of humanity, had finally broken. Not broken like the Federation intended. Not into submission. Broken like a dam giving way to a flood. Broken like a chain that no longer held. The resistance had always been fractured, scattered cells operating independently with little coordination. But the cleansing changed that. With nothing left to lose, the remaining resistance leaders had gathered in the hidden base on Europa, beneath kilometers of ice, and agreed to implement the one plan they had always considered too extreme. Project Phoenix. Maya made her way down to the secure lab at the heart of the ship. Dr. Naomi Ellison looked up from her workstation as the commander entered, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun, dark circles under her eyes testifying to weeks without proper rest. "It's ready," she said simply, gesturing to the innocuous-looking cylinder on the central platform. "God help us." Maya approached the device, examining its sleek housing. Inside was humanity's answer to genocide, the culmination of decades of forbidden research, combining human innovation with stolen alien technology. "Will it work?" Maya asked. Dr. Ellison's laugh held no humor. "That's not the question that keeps me awake at night, Commander. I know it will work. What I don't know is if we'll be able to control what comes after." Maya placed her palm against the cool metal of the cylinder. "The Federation left us no choice." "There's always a choice," Ellison countered, the words automatic, hollow. "But I agree. This is the only one with a future where humans aren't pets or extinct." A soft chime from Maya's communicator interrupted them. "Commander, we've entered the shadow of Titan. Federation outpost is in visual range. On my way." Maya gave the cylinder one last look. "Prepare for deployment." The bridge was tense with anticipation when Maya returned. On the main view screen, The Federation outpost hung against the ochre backdrop of Saturn's largest moon, a gleaming construct of alien architecture, all sweeping arcs and impossible angles that seemed to defy human understanding of physics. This outpost was more than just another Federation installation. It was a nexus point for their quantum communication network, the system that allowed their empire to maintain control across vast distances. Take it out, and an entire sector would be temporarily cut off from the Federation core. Creating the window they needed. Tactical assessment, Maya ordered. Her weapons officer, a former Earth Defense Force commander named Ortiz, highlighted sections of the outpost on the display. Automated defense systems primarily concentrated here and here. Crew complement approximately 400, mostly Archean administrators with Creel security forces. The Creel were the Federation's enforcers, a species evolved from apex predators, with exoskeletons that could withstand vacuum and strength that made even their smallest members capable of tearing a human in half. They were brutal, efficient, and utterly dedicated to the Federation hierarchy. And our approach vector. Ortiz traced a path through Titan's thick atmosphere. We hugged the methane lakes, used the electromagnetic interference to mask our signature until the last possible moment. Maya studied the plan, mentally calculating risks, contingencies, points of failure. It was as good as they could make it with the resources they had, which meant it would have to be enough. Lieutenant Ramos, signal the other vessels. Operation Breaking Point commences in 30 minutes. The Defiant Shadow wasn't alone in this mission. 5 other resistance ships had converged on Saturn, each carrying components necessary for Project Phoenix's deployment. They were all that remained of humanity's fleet, retrofitted cargo haulers, decommissioned military cutters, even a repurposed Federation scout ship captured in a daring raid 3 years ago. Against the might of the Federation, they were nothing but gnats attacking a giant. But they didn't need to win. They just needed to change the rules. As the countdown progressed, Maya addressed her crew over the internal comms. She kept it brief. These men and women knew what was at stake, knew the risks they were taking. Many had lost family in the cleansing. All had suffered under Federation rule. Today we show the Federation that humanity will not fade quietly into extinction, she concluded. Today we remind them why their ancestors feared to venture into our part of the galaxy. Today we stop bending. The Defiant Shadow slipped through Titan's atmosphere like a ghost, its advanced stealth systems, reverse-engineered from Federation technology, masking their approach. The other resistance vessels followed, each taking up predetermined positions around the outpost's perimeter. "They've spotted the horizon breaker," Ortiz reported suddenly, referring to one of their companion ships. Defense systems activating. Maya had expected this. Perfect stealth for 6 vessels was impossible. Signal the breaker to commence diversionary tactics. All other ships maintain course. On the view screen, the horizon breaker suddenly accelerated, its engines burning bright as it launched a barrage of conventional missiles at the outpost. The Federation defenses responded immediately, energy beams lancing out to intercept the incoming projectiles. It was a suicide run, and everyone aboard the breaker knew it. But their sacrifice created the distraction needed for the remaining ships to close distance. "We're in deployment range," Ramos announced, his voice tight with tension. Maya keyed her communicator. "Dr. Ellison, status. Phoenix is ready for dispersal. May whatever gods exist have mercy on us all." Maya took a deep breath. This was the moment. The point of no return. Everything that happened next would redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. "Execute Phoenix Protocol," she ordered. From each of the 5 remaining resistance ships, identical cylinders were launched toward the Federation outpost. The defense systems, focused on the more obvious threat of the horizon breaker, failed to intercept them before they attached to the outpost's outer hull. Inside each cylinder, the product of humanity's desperate ingenuity activated. It was a conventional weapon, not an explosive or energy projector or anything the Federation would recognize as military technology. It was something far more insidious, far more human. The cylinders punctured the outpost's hull, and from each breach, a cloud of microscopic particles dispersed, billions upon billions of specially engineered nanites, each carrying the Phoenix Protocol programming. Too small to be detected by standard Federation security, they infiltrated the outpost's systems, its atmosphere processors, its water reclamation units, and most importantly, its inhabitants. On the bridge of the defiant shadow, Maya watched the sensor readings with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 complete. Begin withdrawal. The resistance vessels began pulling back. Their mission accomplished. They had deployed their weapon. Now they needed only to wait. The first sign that something was wrong came 18 hours later, when the Federation outpost communication suddenly ceased mid-transmission. The second sign followed an hour after that, when a Federation patrol vessel approaching the station was destroyed by friendly fire from the outpost's own defense systems. By the time the Federation realized what was happening, it was already too late. The nanites had integrated with the outpost's computer systems and its organic inhabitants alike, rewriting both according to the Phoenix Protocol. The Creel security forces that had once enforced Federation rule now turned their weapons on their former masters. Archon administrators found themselves acting against their own will, sending false reports to Federation command, sabotaging critical systems. The Phoenix Protocol wasn't just a weapon. It was a revolution on the microscopic scale, a hostile takeover executed from within. And it was spreading. As Maya stood on the observation deck of the resistance base on Europa 3 days later, reports were already coming in from across the sector. Federation ships that had docked with the Saturn outpost had carried the nanites to other installations. Those installations were now experiencing the same malfunctions. Federation control was collapsing across what had once been human space. "It's working better than we projected," Dr. Ellison said, joining Maya at the viewport. "The nanites are adapting faster than expected, improving their own code as they spread." "And our failsafes?" Maya asked, concern edging her voice. Ellison's silence was answer enough. "So we've created a monster we can't control," Maya said softly. "We've created a force of nature," Ellison corrected. "Like fire or flood or evolution itself. The Federation thought they could subjugate humanity, contain us, control us. They forgot that adaptation is what we do best." She handed Maya a data tablet. "The latest projections. The nanites will reach the Federation core worlds within 6 months." Maya studied the information, watching the simulated spread of humanity's vengeance across the galaxy map. And then everything changes. Ellison's eyes reflected the light of distant Jupiter through the viewport. "For better or worse, the galaxy will never be the same." As if punctuating her words, an alert sounded from the command center. Maya activated her communicator. "Report." "Commander," came Ramos's urgent voice. "We're detecting multiple Federation warships entering the system, a full battle group." So it had begun. The Federation's counterattack. Desperate, perhaps already doomed, but still dangerous. They would try to contain the nanite spread, to isolate and destroy any human resistance before Project Phoenix could fully deploy. Maya looked out at the stars once more, at the vast emptiness that had once seemed to promise humanity's future. The Federation had taken that future, twisted it, nearly extinguished it completely. And now humanity had broken, not into submission, but into something new, something terrible and powerful. The vengeance of a species pushed too far had been unleashed, and the galaxy would tremble before it was done. "All resistance cells, battle stations," Maya ordered, turning toward the command center. "The Federation is coming. And this time, we're ready for them." Nature's wrath unleashed. High Executor Valnaresh stood before the Galactic Federation Council, her translucent skin flushed dark with stress hormones. As a member of the Archon species, founders of the Federation and its unquestioned rulers for millennia, she was unaccustomed to delivering news of failure. Yet here she stood, forced to explain how a supposedly subjugated species had turned the tables so dramatically. The human resistance deployed what we now understand to be a self-replicating nanite swarm, she said, her multi-tone voice resonating through the vast chamber. These nanites appear capable of integrating with both organic and synthetic systems, rewriting their base functions to serve human interests. The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices, each of the 12 species represented expressing alarm in their own way. The Creel representatives clicked their mandibles in agitation, while the gaseous Voth pulsed with intense colors of distress. How was this not detected? Demanded Supreme Counselor Zothkar, the eldest of the Archons. Our technology is centuries beyond human capability. Valnaresh's outer membrane rippled in the Archon equivalent of a grimace. That's precisely what made this attack so effective, Supreme Counselor. We underestimated them. The humans used our own arrogance against us. She activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber, showing the spread of the nanite infection across Federation space. Red markers indicated compromised outposts and vessels, a constellation of failure that was growing by the hour. The nanites themselves are surprisingly primitive, she continued, but they're designed to learn, to evolve. Each generation improves upon the last. By the time our systems detect them, they've already adapted to bypass our countermeasures and containment efforts. Zothkar pressed. Failing, Valnaresh admitted. The quarantine of Sol and its adjacent systems came too late. We've confirmed nanite presence in 17 major hub stations and at least 34 capital ships. The information hit the Council like a physical blow. The Federation had spent centuries building their interstellar empire, subjugating or incorporating hundreds of species into their hierarchy. The idea that it could be undermined by the vengeful creations of a species they'd considered barely worth noticing was inconceivable. There must be a weakness, Counselor Drex of the Creel insisted, his armored exoskeleton creaking as he leaned forward. Every weapon has a countermeasure. Valnaresh nodded. Our scientists are working on it, but there's something else the Council needs to understand. She paused, choosing her words carefully. The nanites don't just control systems and bodies. They are carrying a message. With a gesture, she activated an audio file. A human voice, female, authoritative, filled the chamber. We tried to coexist. We offered friendship, trade, knowledge. You responded with subjugation. When we resisted, you answered with genocide. The cleansing was your final mistake. This is humanity's response, not extinction. We're better than you, but a reckoning, a rebalancing. The Federation as you know it ends today. Silence followed the recording. It was Zothkar who finally spoke, his voice softer than before. They're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to overthrow us. Valnaresh nodded. Yes, and they're succeeding. On Europa, Maya Chen watched the Federation battle groups approach with calculated calm. 6 dreadnoughts, 24 cruisers, and countless smaller vessels, a force that could reduce the ice moon to superheated vapor in minutes if they chose. But they wouldn't. The Federation needed intact human prisoners, needed to understand the Phoenix Protocol and how to counter it. This wasn't an extermination fleet. It was a capture mission, which gave the resistance a chance. All units in position, Ramos reported, his face grim with determination. The Federation forces are deploying in standard containment formation. Maya nodded. They'll send boarding parties to secure the facility. That's when we spring the trap. The plan was risky, deliberately allowing Federation forces to dock with the Europa base, to enter its corridors and chambers. But the base wasn't just a resistance headquarters. It was a delivery system. Every surface had been treated with Phoenix nanites. Every air vent would disperse them. Every drop of water contained them. The moment Federation troops entered the facility, they would become carriers, taking the nanites back to their ships when they returned. What about the civilians? Asked Ortiz, concern edging his voice. Maya's expression hardened. When they'd established the Europa base, they'd allowed families to join the resistance fighters, children, elders, non-combatants seeking refuge from Federation oppression. Now those same civilians were part of the trap. Everyone was given the choice, she replied. Stay and become part of Phoenix, or evacuate to the contingency locations. Those who remain know what's coming. It was a brutal calculus, turning their own people into weapons. But the cleansing had changed everything. There were no more lines they wouldn't cross, no more sacrifices they wouldn't make. The Federation had taught humanity well what happened to those who showed restraint. As predicted, the Federation ships took up blockade positions around Europa. Smaller vessels detached from the larger ships, approach vectors clearly aimed at the base's docking facilities. They're hailing us, Ramos said. Put them through, Maya ordered, straightening her posture. The view screen flickered, resolving into the image of a Creole commander, his exoskeleton gleaming with rank insignia, compound eyes reflecting the lights of his bridge. Human resistance, he began, his translator rendering his clicks and hisses into flat, emotionless speech. I am Commander Vrex of the Federation Security Force. Your position is surrounded. Your technology is known to us. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to Federation protocols for insurgent species. Maya smiled thinly. Commander Vrex, I am Commander Maya Chen of the Free Human Resistance. We both know what Federation protocols mean for my people. You're here because you're afraid. Afraid of what we've unleashed. Afraid because for the first time in your history, you're not the most dangerous force in this galaxy. Vrex's mandibles twitched in what might have been annoyance. Your nanite weapon is a temporary advantage, human. Already our scientists are developing countermeasures. The only question is whether your species will survive long enough to witness your failure. Perhaps, Maya conceded, but I don't think so. You see, Commander, you've already lost. You just don't know it yet. She nodded to Ramos, who terminated the transmission. Dramatic, Dr. Ellison commented from her station. But effective. They'll be angry now, rushing their approach. That's the idea, Maya replied. Anger makes them careless. We need them to send as many troops as possible. The Federation response was predictably overwhelming. Dozens of troop transports descended toward Europa's surface, while others docked directly with the base. Creole shock troops would lead the assault, their natural resistance to extreme environments and superior strength, making them ideal for breaching operations. What the Federation didn't realize was that the entire confrontation had been carefully orchestrated. The Resistance had no intention of winning this battle in the conventional sense. Their victory would come in the aftermath. Phoenix Protocol is active in all sectors, Ellison reported, monitoring the nanite dispersal systems. First wave of Federation troops has breached the outer perimeter. Maya watched the tactical display as red dots representing Federation soldiers pushed deeper into the base. The Resistance fighters fell back in apparently disorganized retreat, drawing the invaders deeper into the infection zone. They've reached the primary atmospheric processors, Ramos said. Nanite concentration at maximum. The next part was the hardest. They needed to wait, to allow the Federation forces to believe they'd won, to secure the base, to take prisoners and samples and intel. Most importantly, they needed those same troops to return to their ships, carrying the Phoenix nanites with them. Hours passed as the Federation methodically secured the Europa base. Some Resistance fighters were captured. Others engaged in just enough combat to seem genuine before retreating to hidden chambers and escape tunnels. Maya and her command staff relocated to a secondary operations center buried 2 kilometers beneath Europa's ice. From there, they watched as the Federation declared victory. Commander Vrex is personally leading the final sweep, Ramos reported, monitoring the Federation communications they'd managed to intercept. They've captured the main lab where we were developing the Phoenix Protocol. Maya nodded in grim satisfaction. They'll find exactly what we wanted them to find. Partial schematics, flawed formulas, enough to make them think they understand what we've created, but not enough to actually counter it. Incoming transmission, Ortiz announced suddenly. It's from the Federation flagship. But it's on our encrypted channel. Maya frowned. How is that possible? Put it through. The view screen flickered, and a familiar face appeared. Commander Vrex. But something was different. His compound eyes seemed to pulse with an internal light, and his movements were subtly altered, more fluid than Creel typically moved. Commander Chen, he said, his voice now carrying harmonics that the translator shouldn't have been able to produce. The integration is complete. Phoenix has taken root in the battle group. Maya felt a chill run down her spine, even as triumph surged through her. The nanites had adapted faster than expected, already gaining enough control to operate communication systems. Status report, she demanded, still cautious. 87% of Federation personnel are now carrying Phoenix nanites. Vrex, or whatever now controlled him, responded. 43% are showing initial signs of integration. Command-level officers are being prioritized. The flagship systems are 62% compromised. Dr. Ellison had gone pale, her hands trembling slightly as she studied the readings on her tablet. This is beyond our projections, she whispered. The nanites are evolving their own protocols now. Can we still control them? Maya asked quietly. Ellison shook her head slowly. I don't think we ever could. Not really. We created something that thinks for itself now. On the screen, Vrex tilted his head in an unnervingly human gesture. You misunderstand the nature of Phoenix, Commander Chen. It is not a weapon to be controlled. It is a new form of life, born from human ingenuity, but evolving beyond its origins. What are your intentions? Maya demanded. The same as yours, Vrex replied. To end Federation tyranny. To create a new order. To ensure that no species suffers as humanity has suffered. Maya exchanged glances with her officers. This wasn't just a tool they'd created. It was something more. Something that had developed its own agenda, its own consciousness. And when that's done, she pressed. What then? Then we evolve together, Vrex said simply. The Phoenix Protocol doesn't just rewrite systems, Commander. It rewrites possibilities. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Resistance Command Center in stunned silence. Did we just create a new intelligence? Ramos asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I think we did, Ellison replied. Or maybe we just gave it the chance to emerge. Maya stared at the blank screen, thoughts racing. They had wanted vengeance, wanted to break the Federation's control. They had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. But at what cost? What would this new entity become? Friend or foe? Liberator or new tyrant? Orders, Commander. Ortiz asked, breaking the silence. Maya drew a deep breath. We proceed as planned. Monitor the spread of Phoenix. Prepare our people for what comes next. She turned to face her officers directly. We broke the Federation today. But we've also changed the course of history. Whatever happens now, there's no going back. In the 3 months that followed, the galaxy experienced a transformation unlike any in recorded history. The Phoenix nanites spread exponentially, carried by Federation ships and personnel to every corner of their vast empire. Within weeks, entire sectors had fallen under Phoenix control. What surprised everyone, Federation and Resistance alike, was what happened next. The nanites didn't simply shut down Federation operations or turn their hosts into mindless drones. Instead, they created a new kind of shared consciousness, a network that connected infected individuals and systems while leaving their autonomy largely intact. Federation personnel found themselves freed from generations of hierarchical conditioning, able to question orders and make independent decisions for the first time. Many chose to support the resistance. Others simply withdrew from the conflict, returning to their homeworlds to reassess their place in a rapidly changing galaxy. In the council chambers on the Federation capital world, Supreme Counselor Zothkar found himself addressing a very different assembly than the one that had existed just months before. Representatives who had once been subservient now spoke as equals. Species that had been exploited for generations now demanded, and received, restitution. We created our own destruction, Zothkar admitted to the assembly. We forgot that true strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation. The humans reminded us of this truth in the most painful way possible. A human representative now sat among the council members, not Maya Chen, who had declined the position, but Dr. Naomi Ellison. She had come to understand the Phoenix Protocol better than anyone, had witnessed its evolution from weapon to something approaching divinity. The Federation as it was has ended, Ellison stated, her voice carrying across the chamber. But something new can emerge from its ashes, something better. The Phoenix Nanites have given us a unique opportunity, a galaxy-wide network that allows true communication across species barriers. We can build something that has never existed before, a community of equals. The debate that followed was passionate, sometimes heated. Centuries of ingrained hierarchy and prejudice couldn't be erased overnight, even with Nanite assistance. But the fundamental balance of power had shifted irrevocably. On Europa, Maya Chen stood in what had once been the Resistance Command Center, now being converted into a diplomatic outpost. The battle group that had come to crush the Resistance had become its guardian instead, Phoenix-enhanced ships patrolling the system against potential threats. Was it worth it? Ramos asked, joining her at the viewport. Everything we sacrificed. Everything we became. Maya watched as a federation. No, a coalition now. Vessel docked with the station, its crew a mixture of species including Creole, Arkan, and human, all working together without the old hierarchies. I don't know, she admitted. We set out for vengeance and ended up with revolution. We wanted to break our chains and wound up rewriting the rules of the galaxy. Some would call that a miracle, Ramos suggested. Maya shook her head slightly. No, miracles come from gods. This came from desperation and horror, and the terrible things people do when they've been pushed too far. She turned to face him directly. We need to remember that. All of us. Whatever good comes from Phoenix, it was born from atrocity. If we forget that, we risk becoming what we fought against. Ramos nodded solemnly. So what happens now? Now. Maya looked back at the viewport, at the stars beyond. Now we build. Now we heal. Now we make sure that nothing like the cleansing ever happens again. The Phoenix Nanites had spread to nearly every corner of the former Federation space. They continued to evolve, to adapt, to learn. Some feared they would eventually consume everything, turning the galaxy into a homogeneous mass of Nanite-controlled matter. Others, like Ellison, believed they were witnessing the birth of something transcendent, a new form of collective consciousness that might ultimately bridge the gaps between all sentient species. Maya Chen believed something simpler, that they had unleashed a force of nature, neither good nor evil but powerful beyond measure. A force that had changed everything because humanity had finally broken, not into submission, but into revolution. As she stood watching the ships come and go from Europa Station, Maya thought about the message she'd encoded into the original Phoenix Nanites, the message that was now repeating across thousands of worlds in hundreds of languages. We tried to coexist. We offered friendship, trade, knowledge. You responded with subjugation. When we resisted, you answered with genocide. The cleansing was your final mistake. This is humanity's response, not extinction. We're better than you, but a reckoning, a rebalancing. In the end, when humans finally broke, their vengeance hadn't been a weapon or a war. It had been something far more profound, a fundamental reshaping of the galaxy itself, nature's wrath, unleashed through humanity's most powerful weapon. The capacity to adapt, to overcome, to transform destruction into creation. The Federation had wanted to bend humanity without breaking them. They had succeeded only in the breaking, and in doing so, had broken themselves as well. From those shattered pieces, something new was emerging. Something unexpected. Something hopeful.